Hello, Lizzy here. Today I'm going to show you how to make Nayla. And Nayla is a beautiful crossbody bag. It's quite big, quite chunky. It's got a gusset going all the way around, down the sides obviously and underneath. It's got a pocket like here in the front. This is very similar to Myra, except it's on a larger scale and it's more roomy. I love my Myra. So then we've got a zip here as well. So depending on whether you're left-handed or right-handed, think about where your zip's going to go. So we've got another pocket in the front there. Also, we've got zip stands here to match the gusset, so it keeps that sort of boxy look. And then we've got another zip here with a zip tab, so you can pull it across quite nicely. And inside we have another big pocket tucked in there at the back. Let's put it so you can see it that way. There we go, tucked in there at the back. And again, that has a back pocket and another pocket with a zip across. So you've got that security inside as well as outside. You've got a lovely long strap because this is a crossbody. This is made deliberately to go across the body. It's one of those things when you're out walking and you need to take your purse, maybe a little collapsible brolly, typical British weather, we never know if we need it, tissues, maybe some dog treats, all those sort of things that we need when we're on a nice walk. And so it's quite roomy, it's quite big, so don't fill it too much, but it's got all that necessary security that you need when you're out and about. Now this month in November 2022, our theme for the month is cold and frosty. So you can see behind me I have my cold and frosty set with our new Children in Need and our last patterns in the Children in Need series for 2022. It's been phenomenal. We've raised thousands of pounds, so thank you to everybody that's contributed to that. So anyway, I'm going to show you how to make Nayla. It's absolutely a super duper bag, it really is. It doesn't have any hardware, so if you wanted to put adjustments in there and hardware in there, then obviously you can adjust the pattern to suit your needs. It's a wider webbing than normal. Normally we do a 1 inch, this is a 1.5 inch, so a little bit more kind of chunky looking. Now actually I made this for my John. He wanted a new bag to take out and about with him when he was dog walking, so this was made really for him. Not this fabric, although I'm sure he wouldn't mind golden cream sort of speckled fabric, but and flowers, but I'm going to make another one in blue, so I'm going to see if he likes that one. If not, I've got some denim trousers that I'm going to, or denim jeans that I'm going to recycle, and I promised him I will make him a Nayla for his walk. So there we are. So the pattern is on the website, so either if you're a gold member, you go to the gold members page, or if you are a regular visitor to my page, my website, then just go to the shop, you'll find it there, and it's Nayla, N-A-L-A. Very nice too. And also we have the other pattern in the series. Let me go that way. And this is Nora, and Nora is our second pattern for November. It was inspired by Gemma Joy, who used the new template that we designed in September, and she's created this bag which has been recreated by our Kath into this fabulous cold and frosty shopping bag. It's when we go to the craft fairs and we need an extra bag. So that is the second pattern for the month as well. So if you're watching this, I don't know, 2025, this was when we had our cold and frosty theme for November 2022. Okay, I've done a little bit of work so far because obviously there's quite a lot involved with this pattern. So I've done the lining and the pocket already, which is over there, which I'll have to grab in a minute. But we're going to work first of all on the main body. Now I'm going to follow the pattern on my screen here, which is always something quite nice to do. So when you download the pattern, you don't always have to print it out. You can do what I'm doing, and I'm reading it off the screen. I want to make sure I do it in the order that you see it. So I've got some gorgeous fabrics here. I don't know if these would still be available when you come to choose your fabrics. All of the outer pieces are stabilised in a medium iron-on stabiliser or an interfacing, whichever country you're in, it depends on what you call it. So it's a medium weight iron-on. I don't know what the equivalent is overseas. You must look for that yourself. All of the pocket pieces, except the outer pieces, are in a soft interfacing. It's all in the pattern, but it kind of needs to be explained as we go along, because there's a huge amount of information involved with this pattern. So we're going to work on the front, as I say, and the first thing we're going to do is make up the outside pocket. Now, the outside pocket is, well, it is identical to making a pouch, almost. So be aware of that. It's quite a lot of layers. So if your sewing machine doesn't have a powerful motor, what I want you to do is to take off all of that interfacing and just have a medium weight interfacing on the outer. So I'll just run through what we've got. We've got 3 pieces here of lining fabrics. So we've got the 2 blues there, and they are for the inside of the, well, it's a pocket pouch. Just let's say that, because that's probably the easiest thing to say. So these have got a lightweight interfacing on. So if your machine, as I said, doesn't have a powerful motor, take that interfacing off. Don't use it. Just use just ordinary fabric on its own. I wanted this bag to be really strong. Then we've got what would be the outer pieces of the pocket pouch. So this is the outer piece that you're going to see. So that's what you'll see on the front. It's gorgeous fabric. It's from Northcott. And then this is the other side of the pocket, which is almost part of it's kind of like a lining. You'll see as we go along what I mean by that. It's important that I explain every single step of this to you, because it is quite complicated with all the different stabilizers, etc. If you forget to stabilize in a medium weight stabilizer and do everything in lightweight, it's not going to be detrimental to your project. I just want you to be aware of how strong your sewing machine is, as to whether it will take all of these layers. So this is your outer, this is your other outer, which you'll see, and as we go along, you'll see all these things come together, and these 2 other pieces of lining are in soft interfacing, and they go on inside of the pouch pocket. So the first thing we're going to do, let me just move my machine out of the way, is we're going to attach, well, first of all we need to put a zipper pull on the pocket. So I just want to pop that on while I remember, otherwise we'll put this together and realise we haven't got a zip pull on it, or a zip slider, whatever you call it. And I always do it the same way. So I cut a little piece off of this end here, and then I just slide that in, put one half on, slide this in, keep it all together, and then it just pull, and it's fine. See where it's just got a little kink there? All you need to do is open that up and just take that slider all the way across, and take it as far as you dare, because we're going to stitch quite near to that. If you're at all worried, what you can do is that you could put a safety pin on the end there, or a few stitches, just to hold that end in place so your zip slider doesn't inadvertently come off. It's quite a good little tip to do that. So with that, bearing that in mind, what we need to do is, first I'm going to work out which is my right side. I'm pretty sure that's the right side, and as I have my pocket against my side, I want to be able to open it with my right hand. So I want to put the zip slider on the right hand side of my work here. So that's how I want it to be. If you're going to have it on the left, on your left side hanging down, you want it the other way round. You want it on I've got to think the left of the pouch. That's just how it works out. So it's right sides together with your zip. I just need to check that again, because I'm still thinking that, is that right, is that wrong? So I'm going to pull it that way so that it needs to be there. No, I'm perfectly right. You sort of doubt yourself when you say it. You think, really? Is it? So bearing in mind, we've cut a little snippet off this end of the zip here. So try not to have that all in the 1/4 inch seam allowance. Just have that little poking out a little bit there. And you've got plenty of room. I've told you to cut it longer, so you've got room to keep that zip slider out of the way. And then we're going to put the lining piece on, so we'll pop that out of the way. So we want a lining piece on going right sides down. So what you've got is your outer pocket right side up, your zip right side down, and your lining fabric right side down. Okay, and if you want to then use your quilter's tape, or you could use just pins as I'm going to do and hold that all together. And I'll leave it up to you to decide how many clips, how many pins and how much quilter's tape you use. We're all different. There's no rights or wrongs. What I do prefer to do, however, is to stitch it so I can see, first of all, the zip slider, but also my teeth. And I run my zipper foot along the edge of the teeth there. And even though I've pinned it the other side, that's easy. I can just pull that out as I go along. So this is the first stage. So let's get the machine in. And just keep it all lined up. Pop it under your machine. And we're just going to do a little back stitch to start. It's not essential, but it keeps everything together. And even now I'm just going to pull that pin out. I'm not a keen fan, but you must do whatever's comfortable for you. So all the way along, take the other pin out, and you're just lining up the edges of the raw edges of the fabric here and the zipper tape. Just make sure it all lines up right to the end. And there we have the first part done. So like I said to you before, this is a standard zip sandwich that we're making here with the outer fabric medium weight stabilizer. We've got our lining fabric with a soft interfacing, but like I say, you don't have to do that. That's just that's the pattern I've written, but you don't have to do that. Okay, it is really down to personal choice now. We're going to top stitch all of this, and even though I'm using cream, I always use cream thread, I'm quite happy to use my cream thread to top stitch all the way along there, but we'll do that in a little while. We'll just put the other side on first. So with that all lying flat there and gorgeous, we need our this is our lining fabric, but it's been stabilized with a medium weight stabilizer. So we're going to put that over the top and line that up. We'll just pop a pin in there just to hold it. And then I've got the lining piece which goes on the underneath. And again, it's right side, it's really what it is right side facing. If I can get hold of it, it's right side facing this, although it doesn't seem like it at the time. So just pop it down like that. Again, line this all up, get it beautifully neat. And if you're ever worried if you've got your sandwich right, put your pin in like that, so it's lying horizontal, and then peel all your layers back. Just find the zip. Peel all your layers back and just have a little check and make sure that everything is lying how you want it to be. And it is, but it's a nice little check. And obviously you can put more pins in if you want to. So again, we're going to stitch with the zip teeth facing up. And just get all of these pieces lovely and lined up square. Again, you can get your quilter's tape out, you can pin, you can clip, whatever you please. And we're just going all the way along. So when you start stitching this together, if you're going to do the same as me and stabilize all your pieces like I have, you'll realize what a sturdy bag this is. I kind of think it's more winter weight. So So let's just move that machine out of the way for a second, and let's just open all our pieces up. So, and this is just so I can press this now. So I want to press my seams here, so then I can top stitch. And it's a strange combination, isn't it, having that green zip? It's a khaki. I was tempted to use blue. I think that's the obvious, absolutely the obvious colour. But when I looked at my fabric, I've actually got tones of this green in here. It kind of works, and I didn't expect it to. So I'm quite happy with that. So making sure that you pull your lining pieces out. So all of this here, just make sure that those pieces, those edges there, are sitting together, and pin it by all means. And the same this side. Make sure that your edges, your raw edges, are sitting together. That way that'll press nicely, and when you top stitch it'll all be sitting correctly. You don't need too much of an iron. There we go. And we could, if we wanted to, just flip that over and make sure that's sitting nice and straight and flat. And these are the sort of things that when you see how we need to keep that nice and straight. This is the difference between having a really professional look at the end of it, when you've tried and really made an effort with pressing things open and keeping things nice and neat. So there is our pouch almost done. So we're just going to top stitch all the way along here, and then the next thing we need to do is to put webbing down the front. Because I don't know if you noticed on the original one, let's bring it in, is I've got some webbing going across it, purely decorative. It matches the zip, and it matches obviously the strap, brings out the black of the design, but I quite liked it. It made it, again, a little bit more perhaps masculine, which is exactly how I wanted it. Now we're not stitching this just yet. I want to do this top stitching first. And again, it's one of those things that's in the pattern that sometimes you need to sort of see it. So a nice little top stitch on here. Put your stitch length up to 3. The reason why we top stitch is to keep all those layers out of the way of the zip. That's one side. I do love it in the cream. I think I've got so used to it now. Today I'm using my other Juki. I've got 2 Jukis, absolutely adore both. But this one, which is the TL2200 QVP Mini, is a partially industrial machine. It's super duper quick. I love it. It makes a cracking job, and this is why I was talking to you about the your motors on your sewing machine will tell you really whether it can stitch all these layers, and you can adjust the pattern accordingly. Okay, so if we just put it like that, you'll be able to see what it looks like now. But we need to put our webbing on. Now the webbing needs to go just on this top layer here, okay? We don't want to stitch through all of the layers. It will just look a little ugly. So we're just lifting that underneath layer out of the way. So I've only got, can you see, I've just got that one layer there. And I found this to be the best way, because if we did it beforehand, I would only need this to be a little bit wriggly, and this would then be wriggly. So I thought, well, let's do it once it's all stitched, and then I can trim, etc, etc. So you need to measure it. I'm going to put some quilter's tape along the whole width of my piece. I'm just going to plonk it down. I'm not going to put it anywhere specific. I keep my quilter's tape in a bag now, because my colleague Jackie Thomas, who a lot of you know, said, come on Lizzy, keep your tape in a plastic bag and it'll stay sticky, because I was forever taking off the first little bit because it wasn't sticky. So I mean, it's not straight, but I'm not worried about that, because that is not at all what I need to be straight, but I do need the webbing to be straight. So let's take the backing off. So I'm going to use my ruler here, and I'm going to line it. Now you can decide where you're going to line this up. You can take it from your zipper teeth. I'm going to take it from my top stitching, so I'm going to lay it down, and it's about 1 inch, but you can have it 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch. This is a lot of these things, especially when I make bags, a lot of it is down to your personal preference, and the amount of different designs I see that started off life similar to mine, but then the owner, if you like, has then created something quite different. So what we're going to do now, you see how lovely and straight that's sitting. We've got the tape holding it down, and we measured all the way along. So now I'm just going to top stitch all the way along here. Now, because you're going through obviously quite a thick cotton webbing and almost like 2 pieces of fabric, I would again keep your stitch length on at least 3, like you did the top stitching, because your machine needs to go through all of those layers. It would struggle a little bit perhaps with a shorter stitch. So we're just stitching through the webbing on the front only. I've got my 3 other pieces sitting here. Okay, so let's stitch that webbing down. There we go. If you've got an extension table, by all means use it. You'll find that I never ever use it for demonstrations because it gets in the way basically, and I can cope quite well with my machine without an extension table. But you can see that the table would support all my fabric and stop it from pulling to one side, so do use one. Now, if you're not sure about keeping a straight line, then get your heat erasable, water erasable pen and ruler, draw yourself a line. And especially because I'm stitching in cream, every single stitch will show. That's pressure. Good. Okay. So let's have a look on the overhead. So now what we've got is our tape beautifully placed on there. So I'm going to trim and trim. Okay, now I'm going to trim my zip as well. I'm going to take my pin out. Fantastic. So let's just trim this end as well. If your fabric needs to be just trimmed up, then please trim it. Don't think it tends to be our cutting that's sometimes a little bit out. So if you need to trim it, by all means do. But do remember it kind of needs to be the same as the width of the bag. And then we're just going to trim this as well. So I'll just hold that up like that. Get those out of the way. Now, if you wanted to, I'm just going to bring that back forward like that. If you wanted to, you could stitch across here just to secure the end. I'll leave that for you to decide. I'm not going to. What we're going to do now is that we're going to put all of these layers together. So we've got the 2 outer pieces here, and we've got the 2 lining pieces underneath. Let's just move that so you can see. There's our 2 lining pieces. So we're going to flip it like that. So the zip is standing proud. Okay, and then just make sure that all of your layers are sitting on top of each other. So when we turn it to the side, I'm just going to make sure that my layers are sitting on top. So although it is in effect a pouch. If we stitched it a different way now, that would definitely be a pouch. All we're interested in is now securing all of these raw edges. So I'll put a pin in there. Really, I like the pin heads to stick out, but it's easier for you to see. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to stitch all the way around to secure all of those layers together, so they're not flopping about, they're all under control, and I don't have to worry about them anymore. So let's just bring the machine in. Let's straighten the mat up. There we go. Now on this top one here, we've got the two ends, you know, of the zip. So you just want to make sure that they're sitting nicely on top of each other. And you don't have to stitch on the actual zip teeth. I would say just come in 1/8 of an inch and miss them. But when we put this on the front of the bag, you will stitch over those. So again, it's going to be all down to your machine. Most machines should be fine. I just want to give you just that little bit of an idea of how many layers you've got going on here. So the top stitching I'm doing is less than 1/4 inch, because that's all your seam allowance is for the bag. Sometimes I'll do 1/2 inch, centimetre-ish. Sometimes I'll stick to 1/4 inch. So all I'm doing is securing all those layers together. I've still got it on my long stitch, so I need to bring that down now for the next little bit. So over all those layers with the webbing, and then just break. And so we've kind of made ourselves a pouch, if you have a look at it like that. And that's the back. So when we put this on the bag front now, this is what you're going to see. This is what's going to make that internal pocket between the layers. So that's why it needs to be strong, and that's why it needs to just be a lining fabric. I wouldn't waste your really pretty fabric on the inside of that. I really wouldn't. And then on the inside of this, we've got our lining fabric again, and that's just got that soft interfacing on. I'm going to move my zip away from my seam allowances now. Okay. So on the front piece of our bag, I mean this just fabric is just so delightful, it really is. I kind of didn't want to cut into it. We are actually going to cover this bit all up, so you know, you've just got to kind of be brave, because that looks just gorgeous, doesn't it? Looks like a waterfall. But there we are, this is the pattern. So you'll see that the pouch pocket sits directly on top of the front. Again, we're going to stitch all these layers together. Now ideally I should have got my clips handy, because now we're starting to get lots of layers going, and my beautiful Taylor Seville, I can never say it, Taylor Seville pins, these ones are too fine really. So you can see what it looks like now. We've got all the layers going on. All I'm going to do now is I'm going to stitch this onto the bag. So I'm going to start stitching here, come over the zip, hold it all down nicely, perhaps with your stiletto as you're stitching, hold it down. So you're going to come back over all of your stitching again and back up. Now if you want to miss out the first bit of stitching, by all means do that, but if we do one step at a time, everything will always fit beautifully. So let's get the machine in again, and we'll start stitching. So I'm starting stitching a good 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch away from the zip. I'm going to use my stiletto just to hold my zip in place. Sometimes it wants to curl, which it's doing now, so I just need to tell it who's boss. I mean, it's not crucial, but it sits nicer if it doesn't. I think it's still a little bit twisted. But again, if you'd have stitched across the end, you wouldn't have that problem. So you're literally going over your stitches again. And this is just to hold all your layers. Oops. Go carefully over your zipper teeth. Be respectful of your machine. So there's our front pocket in place. So we've got the internal pocket here, the inner pocket here, and then we've got our zipper pocket here. So we've got that security if we need it. Maybe you're going to put your mobile phone in there. So I'll keep that zip away from the seam. Don't forget to do that. So the next stage is we're going to put our gusset on. Now let me get the lining piece that I've already made up. Okay, so this has all been done ready, just so we cut a little bit of time out. So this is our lining piece, and so it's probably clearer to see what we're going to do next. We're going to attach our side gussets, and we're also going to attach the bottom gusset as well. With the outer bag, the side gussets are done in two pieces, so I'll show you how to do that. With the lining, you can see it's just one long piece. We don't need to have it in two pieces here. And I've already got my internal pocket in there. I'll turn this through so you can see, but it needs to go the other way. And I've left a turning gap in my lining. So obviously your lining, you're not going to have your lining out like this, but it's good to see it. So this is inside the bag. Slightly different fabric for the pockets and also the gussets as well, but there we are. So that's our outer. And again, it's the same thing. It's got the zipper here with the internal pocket and then the inner pocket at the back. So you've got those three different things. I mean, so much storage, so much security. Fantastic. This poor bag is going to have another iron. Okay, lovely. Super. So I'll put that to one side because we'll need it soon. So the first thing we're going to do is that we're going to attach, let's make sure we've got the right pieces here. We're going to attach the smaller squares. You'll see in the pattern what I mean by that. The smaller squares to our gussets. So if we have a look on the overhead here, these are your gusset pieces here. Isn't this fabric gorgeous? And then you've got the two separate squares at the top there. We need to attach our webbing, which is here. I was looking for it and thinking, well, I can't see it. And this is where you really must make sure that you don't twist. It would be very easy to twist this. We'll talk about that as we get to that point. So each piece of webbing is laid between the outer long piece and the outer short piece. So it's right sides together. Again, a clip perhaps would be better because you're going through all of these fabulous layers. Okay. And even if you get it straight here now, it could easily twist again. So again, I'll talk to you about it when I get to that point. So again, the other side, we're just going to layer that up and pop a pin in. And we're stitching 1/4 inch in. Yeah, just making sure I had that level. We're stitching 1/4 inch in, but what I want you to do is 2 lines of stitching, 2 rows of stitching. I want this to be really, really secure because this is what's going to take all the weight of what you have in your bag. So a good 1/4 inch. It can't be any more than that because it wouldn't fit the bag so well. So going across. And obviously you can swivel your project. I just went back. So I've gone across and down, so 2 lines of stitching. And I'm also going to top stitch this as well. So what you want to do when we look at it, okay, that's how I want you to hold it. So if we look at the inside, that seam is facing down, it's coming down, and then we're top stitching across our webbing. And if you want to, do a second line. I'm going to, because it needs to be super strong. And take your stitch length down. I didn't do that, but you do need to do that. So now if we look on the overhead really closely, you've got 2 rows of stitching going across as a top stitch. It just makes it super secure. So if you fill it with lots of goodies, it's going to take the weight of that. So now all we're going to do is the other side. Like I said, don't worry about whether this is straight at the moment, because invariably it absolutely won't be straight. You need to check it when we put the gusset in, but we'll do it as we go along. So again, straight across. Just make sure you've got that webbing pretty central. I didn't check, so I'm hoping it is. I'm going back, but you could swivel your work and take it back. And then as before, you're going to flip it. So that's how it looks. And if we look at the back, that little seam is facing down. And then we're going to top stitch just like we did before. So we're going to do 2 lines. And then we'll just trim our threads so we keep it nice and neat. If you need to neaten up your pieces, then please do. So just get those threads out of the way. Okay. I'm really loving the green webbing. It's like I say, it's a khaki, and you wouldn't have thought it goes with it. And maybe on screen it might look a bit funny, but actually in real life it really does blend beautifully. I'm very pleased with that. So now what we're going to do is we're going to attach our gussets to our outer piece. And like I said, this is the moment when you need to get this correct. So I'm going to pin one on first. So they go top to bottom. Obviously you're making sure your webbing goes out of the top there. Again, we're going to use our pins. This is the moment in my life when I should have brought my clips over, but never mind. And we're going to stitch right down, well, right from the top here, down to the bottom here, but we're going to stop about 1/4 inch from the bottom. So if I do a little mark there, that's where we're going to stop stitching. Okay, now in the pattern I've said to do both sides, so put the other side on and then the bottom, but really when I did the lining I just went down, I put the bottom gusset on and then the next side piece on, but I'll let you decide how you're going to do it. So again, I'm just making sure that this webbing is straight, so I'm going to pin this on, I'm going to pin the other side, and then I'll double check it, triple check it, quadruple check it. I think you can tell by now that maybe the first one I did, it was twisted. Maybe. I'm not owning up to anything today. So place that on the top. Make sure it all meets up beautifully. And if it doesn't meet, it's just adjust it to, you know, it's not it's not going to do you any harm by trimming things back and keeping them neat. So we've got the 2 sides pinned on now. I'm just going to check this webbing again. I'm fairly happy, and when I say fairly happy, I'm not always ever so confident with things like this. So I'm just checking again. Now you see, that seems to me that it's twisted. Oh no, I think we're okay. just like I say, just keep checking. I think we're fine. Right, so where's the other piece gone? Here we go. So you'll notice that the bottom piece is slightly different. That's because the fabric I used for my bag is directional. With directional fabric, you kind of have to justify buying yourself a metre instead of half a metre, because you'll need to use that directional fabric in so many different places on this bag, and really with a half a metre it's not enough to get the best out of the fabric. So my suggestion for this bag is non-directional, or buy a metre, or even 3/4 of a metre. If you're in the US, it's a yard and a quarter is plenty, yard and a half. I beg your pardon, 3/4 of a yard or a yard. So on the bottom here, on the pattern I've said to do these sides and then this, but actually what we can do on this one is that we can just get it ready. So you can see that it's perfectly positioned. I'm going to just pin it there. And I want to show you on the overhead how this works. It's very easy and a nice simple way of putting in a gusset. So the first thing we're going to do is to stitch from the top all the way down to the bottom and stop at that 1/4 inch. When we stop there, we're going to break our threads, going to take it off the machine, and I'm going to pull all this back so it looks like that. It's almost like when you're binding a quilt actually. So I'm pulling that back, I'm placing that over the top, and then I start stitching a 1/4 inch in again like that, and then come all the way down. Stop at that corner at a 1/4 inch. Again, we can mark it, take it out of your machine, or just at least break the threads, and then start stitching the second one from that line there right up. Okay, and then we put the other side on, and then we stitch these little short pieces together. It kind of works out quite well. Okay, so let's start going with that. Okay, got my pencil out of the way. So just be mindful of your seam allowances, be mindful of your webbing, you don't want to stitch that. Get it all lined up. Don't forget also we're going over the zip teeth, so just be very careful. Be respectful, I always say this, just be respectful of your machine. Just give it time to go over all of those layers. So we're just coming up to the 1/4 inch now. And I do a back stitch. I have turned my stitch down, yeah. So now I'm just folding, I'll just bring that out so you can see. I'm just folding this fabric out of the way. I'm going to pop that over the top, and I'm starting to stitch where that dot is. And like I said, you can do the two sides, and then you can do the bottom, or do it all in one go. So when we come up to that second piece, I'm just going to move it out of the way. A little back stitch every single time, a little back stitch. So we're just folding that back, and we're just bringing this down. I'm going to start stitching just there, and you'll feel the fabric in the corner, so you'll know where to stitch. So don't forget, we're going through webbing again, we're going through the zip teeth, so just be careful. Even with this machine, I'm very respectful of what it's capable of. Back stitch again, so you're back stitching every time you stop and start. So there are the first bits of gusset on. So now if we take our outer piece, so we're just going to do exactly the same again. So flip it over. This time I won't pin, I'll just kind of go for it. So now now we're attaching the back. I stopped 1/4 inch away. Just going to trim that a little bit. Okay, and then I'm going to fold back that little piece of gusset and put the bottom one on. Now, because this is the other side, it's a little bit more awkward. So don't forget, we stop and start 1/4 inch from the ends. Just make sure that's sitting straight. I'm going to check that. And because of all the interfacing, it's quite stiff. So we're going along the bottom and we're stopping 1/4 inch. I'm doing a lovely back stitch to give it super duper security. And now I'm stitching up the other side. So I'm just going to move that bottom piece out of the way, just as we did before, except you've got all of the other layers now to contend with. So it's a little bit more cumbersome. It's not difficult, it's just a little bit more cumbersome, that's all. Straight up. And this, of course, you don't have any zip or any extra webbing to go through, so it's a lot easier in that respect. Okay, so now all we've got to do is stitch up these little corners here, these joining the side and bottom gusset together. So just squidge all your layers out of the way and pop it flat underneath your machine. And you're starting again from that 1/4 inch mark. So if you've made a pencil line, if you've made a little dot like I did, you'll see it. It's so easy, it's very visual. So there's one, so we've stitched across that one there. So now we're just going to pinch this one and we kind of fold it in on itself. We're pleating it, I suppose, trying to keep it flat. Don't forget you've got all of that bulk of the pocket. In fact, I'm going to turn it over. Let's just fold that a little better. That's it. That's it. Don't want to pleat that. It looked like I was going to pleat it. Okay, and then across to the other side. Okay, so now we've gone across that end as well. And if we turn it through, you'll be able to see what that looks like. There's a lot of webbing going on. So now all we've got to do is make up the zip stands and the zip and pop it in, lining, we're done. So just give that a little poke out like that. Any little cotton stitches I can see that, sorry, loose threads, I'm just going to snip those away. So just push that corner out and that one. I think I'll probably turn this round again to put the zip in, but just to show you what it looks like so far. So there we are, needs a good press. But there's your outer bag done. So we're just going to make the zip stands up now. So let's just pop that to one side. So this is where we need our iron again. So again, we have got two little tabs to go on the end of the zip here, and we've also got the zip stands here. These little zip ends here, these zip tabs here, go on to the zip, and it is cut to size. So as long as you've cut this accurately, it'll fit your bag beautifully. Okay, so I'm preparing now to put my zip tabs on. I just remembered I need to put my zip slider on. So I've just cut off one little piece of the end and put my zip slider on. I much prefer zips on a roll, or zips by the metre, than buying individual zips, although obviously I have both. But I like to be able to cut things to the right size, and this works for me. So again, just open that up. Okay, so obviously now what we need to do is to prepare the zip tabs. So you'll see in the instructions that we have 2 squares, and both opposite sides needs to be pressed over by about 1/4 inch. So I'll do the other one. Don't worry about directional fabric on this, because these end up so small you'd never be able to see. Okay, so happy with that. Let's just get rid of the iron. So the next thing we need to do is to obviously attach these. Now I wouldn't worry too much about the end of the zip. So if we get this out of the way, so the first thing we're going to do is top stitch our zip tab onto our zip. Now then, you don't necessarily need to get it so it goes halfway. I would say that you're going to tuck in about 1/2 inch here, and you're going to top stitch over the top. So place it down. By all means use quilter's tape. Let's do that because it's just so much easier. So we'll do 2 pieces. And it doesn't really matter where you position it. So we'll do the other end as well. We'll make sure that that's correctly sitting nicely when we come to put the tab on. So we've got the right side of the zip facing, and we're just going to put our fabric over the top. So our folded edge is there. If I flip it that way, you'll see what that looks like. So I've got about 1/2 inch inside my zip tab there. So all I'm going to do now is top stitch over that to secure it. I'll do the same on the other end. So if I take my tape off, make sure my zip is fine there, glue it down, you can see what that looks like. Okay, so let's bring the machine in. It's a top stitch, so if you want to, you could lengthen your stitch. It's not crucial, but you can. And then you're just going straight over the top. Make sure the ends of your zips are touching. It's easy the other end. And you're sort of starting 1/2 inch or so, 1/4 inch or so before the zip. Okay, so this is the next bit that might get you a little confused. So I'm going to show you on the overhead. So now what we're going to do is we've got these attached, we've got these beautifully top stitched. So we're going to bring this side over. So we've got right sides together coming over. Okay, and I want you to pop a pin in or a clip just to hold those in place for the time being. You're going to take them out almost immediately. We'll do the same the other side. So you've got right sides showing, right sides together. So you can see now that you don't really want your zip as far along as that fold. So a little way back is just where you want the end of the zip. It's fine. Let's just pin that in place. So what we're going to do is that we're going to stitch either side of our zip. So let me draw that for you. Get my heat erasable. So you're going to be a smidgen away from the zip. You're not going to stitch the zip. All you're doing is making a little case for it. So you're stitching just, I don't know, maybe not even 1/16 of an inch away from the edge of the zip there. So there's your zip tape edge. That's where you're going to stitch. Okay, if we do the same this side, so just draw a rough line, and you're just going to stitch along those lines. Okay, So let's just bring the machine in again. Okay. So make sure you're on your shorter length stitch now. Nice back stitch. I'm going to take my pins out, but you do need them, the pieces that you've just folded over, to be sitting directly on top of each other, so a pin is a good idea to keep them secure, or another piece of quilter's tape, but we're going to turn it through so it might get in the way. So we've stitched along those two lines there, and I'm just going to trim them back. I wouldn't worry about cutting into the corners so much because it's only single layer fabric, so there's not a huge amount of bulk there. Let's take those pins out again. The main thing here is not to stitch your zip. Just be mindful of where your zip is. Okay. So trim it back, cut all your threads, keep everything neat, and then all you're going to do, so that's what you've got, your two ends look like that, so all you're going to do is turn those through. So just be careful, don't want to rip anything. I need a little pokey tool here. So let's get that. So you've made a nice little square end. Okay. So the front has been top stitched. Just try and keep all these little threads from sticking out. I mean, this is going to be on the wrong side, but you're going to see it. So you want to try to be as neat as you possibly can. Now, the other thing is you've got a loose end here, so you can either hand stitch across there, or you can follow the original stitches and top stitch over it again, which is what I'll do. That's the easiest thing. So let's bring this in. Just make sure that they're all lined up, sitting nicely together. So there we go. Nice neat top stitch around that little square. Doesn't want to move. Okay, trim our threads. Do the other side. I'm concentrating like crazy here. Can you hear the cogs whirring? Okay. I mean, to be honest, when I think about it, you don't really need to go along all sides. You just need to go over that edge that still needs turning, just near the zip teeth. But it makes a nice finish. Okay, so there's our zipper done. So now we need to do the zip stands, and these are really nice and easy. So get your iron out again, and you're going to iron over on each short end 1/4 inch. And you want these really as neat as you can get them, because it will matter when you line them up. You'll see what I mean in a sec. Okay, so we've now pressed over both ends, and then what I want you to do is fold them in half and give them a lovely iron. Make sure they stay in, make sure they line up. And oftentimes I'll put a clip in them just to hold them while they cool down. I'll put a pin in today. Just holds them in place. So look, see how they curl? Just do it that way. There. So it holds them down. So with this one, again, we're just going to fold in half. Make sure that those short ends sit beautifully on top of each other. There we go. It's quite important that you spend a bit of time doing this. You do want them to be sitting neatly as best you can. Okay. Right, let's move that out of the way. Okay, so now we've got both our zip stands done. So we've got our raw edges sitting here and here on the outside, and we're just going to now stitch them onto our zipper. You want to get them central, so obviously you can measure this if you want, but I tend to do this by eye. So we've got about 1/2 inch, perhaps a bit more gap at each end before your tab there. So once again, I'm going to get my quilter's tape, and I'm going to put it on the folded edge of my zip stand and go right up to the end there, and the pins, and then I'm going to take those pins out in a sec. So now just lay it down, and you want the folded edge to be about 1/16 of an inch away from the zipper teeth. You don't want this folded edge right up to the teeth. I know you might be tempted. I know you might be tempted because it looks neat, but you will struggle to open your zip. So let's do the other side. So the tape is just holding it in place. It's making sure also that they're level. So let's just stick that down. Just give that end a little squidge if it's not behaving, which it doesn't want to. There we go. And all we're going to do is place that folded edge again. So we're lining up, you can see we're lining up here and placing it exactly where we want it to be. So it's just a wee bit away from the zipper teeth. We just want to make sure that they're as lined up as we can get them. Okay. So now what we're going to do, I'd like that to be a little bit better, but I can fiddle that a little bit. So what we're going to do is we're going to stitch from here up, along and down. And when we do stitch the second one, we want to make sure that it's all in place. Now before we go ahead and do that, we've got to make sure that we've got the right side facing us, we've got the tabs right side facing us, we've got our folds against the zip there, and it's about, as I said, about 1/16 of an inch away from the zipper teeth. So we start on the short edge. Now although this is a top stitch, This is also a structural stitch. It's holding the zip in place. So keep your stitch length at, well, it's about 2.5 on my machine. So all the way down the folded edge of the zip tab, the zip stand. Make sure your two short layer pieces are sitting on top of each other. And then we'll do the other side. Okay, keep your slider out of the way. And down the other side. So again, this fabric is, although it's a coordinating fabric, it's not the same as the outer bag because I use directional fabric, but that was my choice to do that. So if we look on the overhead now, you can see we've got a beautiful, beautiful zip ready to go into our bag. So let's pop that in. I'm going to open up the zip just to give me peace of mind more than anything. What I want to do though, first of all, is to make sure that I'm going to put my zip in the right place. Now, if you remember a little bit earlier on in this video, and it seems like a long time ago now, I want to make sure that all my zips are on this is now the left hand side. Okay, well obviously this bag is now upside down. So when I look at my zip stand, I want to make sure that my zip is in this end as well. That's the only thing you've got to worry about. So before I do anything, I'm going to just pin that piece in place or use a clip because it's a lot safer. Now what you could do is open up this zip, and this is what I did in the pattern, and then you can bring the bag through and you can pin it the other side, but actually it's easier to turn your bag inside out. As long as you've got that first bit pinned, so you know you've got it in the right place, and just mind your hands with obviously the pin that you've got in there, then this should be easy peasy. Now the zip only is attached to these front pieces. They are not attached to the gusset in any way, okay? It's just purely attached to the front pieces there, okay? So let's just get rid of this webbing, pop it into the pocket, whatever it takes. So now you can see, hopefully, I'll turn it up like that, we've got our zip stand ready to put in. So we've already done this one, I've already pinned this one, so all I need to do is to bring that across to the other side and pin that as well. And I'll probably stitch it from the zip stand side, so I'll just pop it down on my desk for a moment, and then I'll show you what I've done. Okay, and now this should fit from seam to seam very accurately. If it doesn't, then just adjust. This is not there's no competition in how accurate you can be. This is all down to things like your cutting and seam allowance. So if it doesn't fit, and it's well, even if it's slightly bigger, just take it round to the gusset, don't worry about it. So if I turn that up now, you can see that I've got that pinned in place, and nothing is attached to these end gussets here. So I'm going to stitch this in place. And it's much easier to stitch these things in place before you even try to stitch the lining in as well. So we're stitching an 1/8 of an inch, and this is really basting. So you could, if you want, up your stitch length to 3 or even 4, because we're just holding this in place. Don't have to break your thread, you can just carry on going around the gusset. But I'll be good, I'll break my thread. I'm sure it uses more anyway doing that. So let's put the other side on. It's a funny thing because when I made up the first one, which is in the pattern, I put the zip stand on a different way, and if you look at the pictures you'll be able to see what I mean by that. And it was only afterwards I thought, just pop it inside, which is what we're doing now. Much easier. Okay, so there we are. So our zip stand is now attached. Okay, so you can keep that open if you want, it doesn't matter. But now we need to stitch the lining. So I think what I'm going to do is turn this all the way through. Or do I? I don't know which is going to be easiest. I'll keep it as it is. I'll keep it as it is. There we go. Just push your zip tabs in. So this is our lining. Actually, we're probably better keeping the lining as it is, aren't we? So let's turn this one out. You decide. When you get to this point, you decide, and then you can tell me what you did. The only reason why I decided putting the zip stands in with it inside, so the right side was inside, was because when we turn it round like now, you've got this sort of, for want of a better expression, you've got a bit of puckering there because your zip doesn't open that wide to allow your gusset to be flat. That is perfectly correct. Just before you start worrying, do make sure that your pocket is sitting to the back. Your inside pocket of your lining is sitting to the back. I've got my turning gap here. So right sides together, just pop it in, work it in, push it down, tell it who's boss, tuck the handles in, and all you've got to do is line up the seams of your gusset. Now, it will be slightly awkward because of the zip stands and the zip tabs are in the way, but persevere and just line those seams up. Obviously you're going to pin or use clips to hold all these layers together, and there's a lot going on. And the other thing, as I've said before, is if you have, just to get that attached, there we go, if you have a big table that you can attach to your machine, please do that, because it'll hold all of your bag in place. But as I said, I never use it for demonstrating. So watch as you come around the gussets that you haven't trapped any of the webbing or the zip tabs or anything like that. So we're just going all the way around the top, joining our outer bag to our lining. We're doing a good 1/4 inch now seam allowance. Now if you want to, you could make this a little bit more, maybe nearly 3/8 of an inch, and that's only because it needs to be strong. That's all. I'm just going to snip into that seam because I want it to lay a different way. So you're lining up the seams of the gussets. So the seams of your outer bag and the seams of your lining. If it doesn't line up, I'm not going to tell you off. And there we are. Beautiful. Good. So there we have it. So all we have to do now is turn it through. So honestly, it goes through the mill like any bag will do, pulling it through. Try to be as gentle as you can. You've just spent hours making yourself the most beautiful bag, but you will have to tug it. You've got all that stabilizer that will want to fight you, and then you must give it a press. So many times I see pictures of beautiful bags or projects, whatever it is, and they've not seen an iron. Please press. Press, press, press. You can see the stress. All of this fabric is going under me getting it out, and actually I left quite a big turning gap, but I knew because of all the layers it was going to be tough. It's stiff more than anything. So we're nearly there, look. Give it a little squidge through. Oh dear. I'll get John to edit this bit out. No, I won't. Just leave it in. Because you'll do the same. You'll probably be far quicker than me. I've never known anything about being quick when it comes to turning bags through. Well, that's the webbing out. Let's give it a pull this way. We're nearly there. It's just being awkward now. There we go. That's my calorie workout for the day. I'm poking the lining out and it really needs to go back in. So we've managed to get it out, but now we're going to poke it back in. Okay, got bits all over the place. So you'll end up with an amazing bag. Absolutely stunning. The fabric, of course, generally speaking, makes it, doesn't it? Every single time. Every single time. And there we are. So you're going to make sure that all of these layers are pressed and looking beautiful. You've got that fabulous zip going across. Your zip stands, when you've pressed them, will lay flat. You just need to press them. Tell them who's boss, like I always say. It needs a good press, as I say. But I'll put another picture of this in the pattern so you can see this one pressed and ready for action. And then obviously we've got our fabulous webbing there to go around our shoulder. And like I say, it is a crossbody bag and it's big because we've got the gussets in there, look. We've made our super duper webbing bits really, really strong, so they should take a lot of weight. These will tuck in, these little zip tabs will tuck in when you've got it on. And then of course you've got the lining. Now we didn't go through the lining, but it's made exactly the same as the outer. So inside there we've got that fabulous pocket. Can you see? There we are, that's better. Now if you wanted to, you could put a magnetic closure in sort of halfway, because obviously you still got that open pocket there as well as the zip pocket at the front, but you could, if you wanted to, put a magnetic closure between that inner pocket to the bag, and the same with the lining pocket as well. There's lots of different things you can do to make it more secure, and there we are. That's our other Nayla done, and it's just absolutely gorgeous. I love it. And actually I can't wait if John doesn't want to wear this, because it looks quite masculine and that's why I made it, then I'll use it because I just adore the fabric. Look at that. It's beautiful. I'm transported back to snowy scenes. It's almost like as if you're in Canada or somewhere like that. Beautiful. So there we are. I shall go away and give that a good press. We'll take some lovely photographs of it and we'll pop it on to the end of the video so you can see what it looks like made. And I even might pose with it so you can see what it looks like on the body. But it is a crossbody bag, so it's a nice long strap. You can alter it if you want, and you can put hardware on it if you want to as well. So it's up to you. But there we are. That's Nayla. I hope you make loads.